reason
Yes.
behind all that abuse that they're spewing, and they get better and they soften, and
Yeah.
you notice that, and it's really just this neat cycle to observe.
Yeah, so to reiterate that is, I just assume everybody has experienced some trauma. So that helps me to know that, it's stemming from somewhere else other than my existence. Do you know what I mean? But I think, speaking to what you had said, is we have to remember to acknowledge the small improvements. It could be taking medication one time but not another. It could be, getting up out of bed, getting dressed, taking a shower, shaving. I mean, it could be so many little things that take days to get to, but acknowledging that, and then again, in this example here, the fact that she even got up on the bed from the wheelchair, it's a positive behavior that you were hoping to see, and to acknowledge that, and to give the positive, that small sort of verbal positive reinforcement of thank you very much, that sort of acknowledgement that, I think would boost her, sort of sense of, of doing something and accomplishing something that someone else appreciated goes a long way too.
All right. Does anybody have anything they want to say before we end the panel, whether it's from the panel or from you guys? All right. Well, thank you. You guys make me feel very proud.
Yeah. Yeah, I worry when people were speaking out here that you couldn't catch them. They weren't strong enough to be. They weren't supposed to repeat when somebody said.
Yeah.
I was thinking you should probably have repeated some. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably should have walked up there and handed that to her.
Yeah, because otherwise
Yeah.
you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of good comments.
She asked today to get it to you because she doesn't have your phone.
Dinner at 7. Okay. I have a MEPR thing at 4 down in Fells Point, so, but that would work because it's on the way back. They're having a community of practice meeting and scavenger hunt at 3, and then they're going to have a happy hour for all the MEPR people. They're trying to create a new structure for joining with people.
Oh, now we're talking about pets. Okay.
Thank you.
On your car, nice job on the piano. There's a lot of like
Thank you.
emojis.
Yeah, it
and
worked
stuff.
out well.
It's always a relief when it does.
All right.
What?
I said, very nice job. I said, first of all, nice job on her dog was excellent, and the piano was excellent. And she said, Karen said, well, it's good when it works out like that.
Yeah.
But it's like all the right points are coming out.
Yeah, good.
Tell them you want to come in for 8.
Okay, that's fair.
That's what I was saying. Whenever
I know. At least I got one cannoli.
Very nice and split them.
Oh, good.
But they were good, actually.
Yeah, they were good.
So I think,
I wasn't crazy about the food.
oh, well, the chicken was good. You had the chicken?
Yeah, I didn't like the chicken. Well, maybe it was just, that's all right.
I like the chicken, and I actually really like the eggplant parmesan. It was not warm though. I mean, it was warm. It wasn't hot. It would have been
Oh,
better.
I forgot it was eggplant parm. I was like, what was this? So I just had the noodles, actually. That was good.
Oh, okay.
The
good.
rigatoni with tomato sauce and cheese.
Oh,
One
yeah,
on the
that was
left.
good. That was
Yeah,
good.
that had good. I like rigatoni. I like that toothiness of it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with like tomato. I think I'll do the chicken again because there wasn't hardly any chicken left.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm going to do maybe the tomato-based things. I wish we had a way to keep it warm. I wonder if
I
we
know.
could rent some
Yeah.
burner things. Or can you,
Oh, like a chafing dish?
yeah, I can see us burning the house down.
Yeah, I know.
Don't you just
Well, they
have
have.
one thing and then you put the little.
Do we need to stretch anymore? Are we all stretched out, wiggled around? Can the peanut gallery over on the right side, please?
Look, we're going to get started again.
Yeah, here we are. So we are now going to begin to turn the lens on ourselves as the practitioner and think about ourselves. How do we, with all of these challenges with our patients, how do we support being therapeutic with patients? It's something that's very close to my heart because I think it can be really very emotionally taxing sometimes. We have very different stresses as psychiatric staff than maybe other places in the hospital. So let's go on the downer route for a few minutes, thinking a little bit about burnout and thinking a little bit about the environment that we're in. There's been a lot of attention being paid, there is a lot of attention being paid to burnout in the nursing profession and in healthcare in general. We're hearing it every day in the news. We hear about it at the last conference we went to. Every single person spoke about rates of physician and nursing burnout as ranging from 35 to 82% of the profession. And it's really been increasing over the last 10 years. We think about the increased rates of patient acuity, of moral complexity that we see, and technology, and then compassion fatigue. Our patients can take a lot out of us sometimes. We're looking at having a looming nursing shortage. That's kind of on, that's like the tsunami about ready to break. I tell you, this is the downer part of the talk. We have to work 24/7 in the hospital. This is challenging for our work-life balance. It's real. And there's a lot of pressure by hospital administration as well, and this isn't at Hopkins only, this is everywhere. Right now, the healthcare climate is really under pressure to decrease our expenses related to healthcare. So we looked at some of our last surveys. We have low engagement scores due to burnout, and this really affects our patient outcomes. Now maybe it's not affecting us so much in psychiatry, but it's affecting us in other places as well, but it's real. This causes increased rates of nursing turnover, and turnover is incredibly expensive, and then the hospital administration goes, oh no, well, how can you do something about that? It's said to cost between $80,000 and $100,000 to recruit, onboard, and orient each new nurse, and that is a lot of money. If you think about rates of turnover accelerating throughout the organization, that's a lot, big on the bottom line. Burnout affects patient safety, infection rates are poor patient outcomes, and of course it affects patient satisfaction if we're not engaged with our patients. So if you think about in psychiatry, nursing is very emotionally intense in its work. When we talk about being with people in their darkest hour and being calm and being with, I mean, it can really be intense in a very different way. In the last number of months, I've been with a lot of ICU nurses here, heard a lot about their ethical dilemmas, and some of our staff have been going to MEPRA, and I would encourage you, if you have the opportunity, to go to MEPRA, which is a program for staff nurses to look at increasing resilience in ethically challenging situations. But one of the things, one of my staff had gone to it and said, well, we don't have the same ethical challenges. We don't have all the end-of-life decisions that really cause a lot of moral distress as a nurse. I said, but we have other ethical dilemmas, and I bet you all could sit here and speak to all the ethical dilemmas that we get mired in, and it's really important to recognize that. So we have to think about, and I've been looking a lot at compassion satisfaction and compassion fatigue, and there's a lot of factors that could go into either one. I mean, compassion satisfaction is when we go home at the end of the day and we're able to say, as the nurses on the last panel said so well, that person took a shower today, or that person, you know, didn't go into seclusion, and really understanding that that's all the difference that we can make. Compassion fatigue is really where we just don't have the energy for it anymore. Some of it has to do with having the right person in the right job, and honestly, I think psychiatric staff are, you know when you're in the right job. And I've always said to every single person who has come to interview in my unit as a potential new staff member, you have got to love these patients, and because they're not the most lovable people sometimes. Some people, as you said, they don't want our help. They can relapse even if they have good aftercare. So there's a lot of things that we need to be aware of and not get discouraged. We have to have our own hope, but we have to think that we can make a difference with people. So as we said, you're using yourself, and it is this nurse-patient relationship that is foundational in psychiatric nursing. Joyce has talked about it, Karen's talked about it, and I think this is what really makes a difference. And if you think about satisfied nurses, they're fully engaged, and you know when you're fully engaged, energized. You get satisfied. You get satisfaction from providing this excellent care, and you know that we provide some of the most excellent care in the country for our patients, and our patients are really tough. They don't have a lot of resources, at least on some of our units. Some of our units have patients who have more resources, but they're equally challenging in other ways, as you can know. And you think about walking with that patient's distress can cause distress in yourself. You might take it home. You might start thinking about it, and so you need some way to keep that your center bolstered. And secondary traumatic stress is just defined as you're walking too much in that. You've had too many people die. You've had too many people have really sad stories, and you take it home. And it has an effect in terms of negative physical and mental well-being. And nurses in general don't like the idea of compassion fatigue. They, at least in some of the studies I've read, they see that as kind of stigmatizing to themselves. And but it can also happen when you're really unable to disconnect when you're away from work. So you get into thinking about what can you do about it? And it really goes down to really looking at developing resilience through a good self-care practice. If you think about building staff resilience, it increases your engagement, and there has been so much in the last, I'd say, 5 years, and it seems to be accelerating even in nursing management journals, about the importance of resilience programs, looking at what we can do to help staff regenerate that energy, that spark. Because as everyone has said, it is that relationship, that core relationship, that can make a difference with patients. We need to think about some of these resilience programs, and you're going to be hearing more about them in the years ahead. There's a big healthy work environment project at Hopkins, and this has been going on. It actually started with some grant funding a number of years ago, and is now being incorporated into a Center for Well-Being and Resilience. This got a different name. I forget exactly what it is, collaborative leadership. But the idea is it's training nursing leaders from the top down, and then at the grassroots it's going to be training doing some staff programs. And we're going to be doing some other staff programs here in our department in the years ahead. So we also have to think about the MEPR I was telling you about. That if you get, it sounds like a weird acronym, but it's Mindful Ethical Practice and Resilience Academy. Anyway, has anybody here been to that program yet? Mary, you've had some people. Sandy and me have. Sandy and I have. No, you have to be registered for it. It's a research study, so you have to go and you have to commit to the whole program, which is 6 weeks, 4-hour sessions. You have to be able to go to each one of them. The next cohort is starting in February, and the deadline for registering is December 1st, I believe, and they're filling up. Yeah, talk to your manager about that. But there are a number of tools that you can learn in that can help you resource the right and the idea, we were talking with the staff in this program today, just helping people figure out how to bring some of this back to their nursing units to build a positive and strong culture. Some of the other work we're doing, we've done all this work with the Urban Institute. Because there's a lot that you can do to build your own self up from the inside, but you have to work in an environment that helps support some of those practices. And so we're working on, from a nursing perspective, we're working on helping people gain some work-life balance through fair scheduling practices, and then, of course, the PACE redesign program. So we're looking at the outer structure as well as what we bring to the work environment right now. And anyway, so I just wrote in there any other ideas if anybody has any other things that they're doing. But be sort of thinking about this, what you might do on your own teams to think about how you can create a strong culture. I know when we did the resilience training for the psychiatric department, I don't know how many of you here were able to do that. What was it, 6 years ago, Sandy? 5 or 6 years ago. People would speak to the importance of having a strong weekend that they worked in. So they had that identity with their weekend staff. So, I think we all do sort of local things. And I think it's really important to celebrate that because it can be one of the things that you can help build your own personal self-agency to deal with this very difficult work. And of course, Karen, I got this quote from Karen, so I'm glad she put it up there because I have used it. I've been on Meyer 3 million years, and I was around when Karen spoke about this often. And having the nurse believe in them, the patients they said it was the most important thing to orienting them towards hope and recovery. So, as I mentioned, there's an increasing body of literature, and really now with looking at the importance of resilience. So resilience is something we all have, but what can we do personally to help build our resilience? Because again, patient outcomes improve, the team functions better. The idea is that you come at the center with your own sense of personal mastery. It spreads to your team, and then it can spread to your patients. So but you've really got to be at the center, and we all have a responsibility for knowing what we bring to that relationship. Yeah.
When we had the RISE team come this last week,
Yes.
was really valuable to me because working at our unit for so long and having had terrible things happen in the past and not having that.
So that was.
The difference in bringing me together, helping me to process it, hear what my colleagues, taking a minute aside to process it, was all like super valuable for me. And like I said, I've experienced both sides.
Yeah.
And this was much better.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that is wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, when you think about the importance of social support, it's critical. I mean, we can't with your peers, and having sometimes somebody else come in to help you process that is such a bad outcome. Again, go back to what Joyce also said, that about Peplau. The nurse each person becomes greatly affects what each patient learns, and that nursing fosters personality in the direction of maturity. When you think about that, you're bringing a lot to this, but you're learning. And all of these experiences that we've had, these experiences, meaningful, painful, positive, they affect who we are as people. And, I've always said, I think that we have different ethical dilemmas, things that affect us in very personal ways. So you think about resilience, you think about the negative part of resilience. If you're not resilient, if you're having long-term stress, it really negatively affects how you relate to other people. Just think about if you had a team that didn't have that support, didn't have that ability to sort of process things, how it would affect the way people functioned with each other. And we know that, unmetabolized stress hormones leads to all kinds of physical problems. It's not just your own mental state of being not engaged with people, but it affects you physically too. So it's really important to think about what we're doing self-care-wise and practice-wise. And again, we'll be working on this as a department more and more in the future. Because when you think about your positive energy, how it contributes to your team's functioning, as well as your ability to have a therapeutic relationship with patients. You've got to have that, be able to bounce back. So I have a few strategies, and you can, this is like from David Letterman, who retired, about 30 years ago? I'm a little behind the times. But these are just a few self-care strategies, and we're going to talk a few minutes at the end about positive emotion, but these are actually from our original resilience program. One, the top 10, number 10, is making sure you get some physical activity every day. 30 minutes is all it takes. Number 9, eat your green leafy vegetables, as well as other colorful wet vegetables. And you have probably seen, anybody who knows me has probably seen my bumper sticker, but I do have a kale bumper sticker. I used to be the Queen of Tomatoes, but now I've kind of shifted a little bit. But it's important you have to really think about your nutrition. You got to do a little bit of planning before you come to work. And, if you're going to eat Cheetos all day, you're not going to be at your best, and you're not going to be able to function. Make sure you get enough sleep, and that is not easy to do sometimes, particularly with shift work, but you got to find something that's going to help you personally fill your tank up. And what is your tank? If you think about filling your tank up, anybody got any ideas about what I'm talking about with filling your tank up? Nobody's getting my joke. Huh?
I just think of food.
You think of food? What else would you do to you got to replenish your soul. You got to take time to think about those moments of awe in your life, something that can help you pause and remember why you're here. Smile 3 times during the day. Believe me, smiling is contagious. It is. And I won't do my laughter yoga routine, but believe me, that is... Has anybody done laughter yoga here? Does anybody remember laughter yoga? Sandy. So
Frankie and Grace, the television series, isn't that one character Frankie does laughter?
Laughter yoga. They actually in some parts of the world have manufacturing plants where the men and women who work in that part of the plant have to go in this room in their gray uniforms, and they are led through laughter yoga exercises for 20 minutes before they go into work. Ha, 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 ha. I mean, and it's so silly, and the idea is that it's contagious, and it is a huge stress reliever, and it helps people to focus. So anyway, you can look it up on, whatever, Google it. But there's some wonderful laughter yoga exercises that we have done before. Laughter releases endorphins. It's got a Yeah. So think about that. Think about when you come home too. Think about on the way home. I think you all gave some wonderful examples about things that did work. Try to think of one positive thing that happened during the day. If you're feeling kind of low, we started our program this morning at the MEPRA program by having everybody in this sort of speed dating fashion go around and say one good thing that happened on their way to work, on the way to that session, and it really makes a big difference to think about that one good thing. It focuses your energy in a positive way. Of course, I'm a big proponent of gratitude, and there's a lot of research happening with gratitude right now that's really looking at the long-term effects of even doing a daily gratitude practice for 5 weeks or something, where you just write 3 good things, three things you're grateful for at the end of the day. I mean, even if you stop doing it, or if you don't do it every single day, you do it most days during the week, it has a huge effect on patient safety. And we're looking a lot at what works in terms of not focusing so much on pathology, but looking at what things help people to stay stronger.
What helps you feel like your well-being is taken care of. And so actually when you do practices like that, or when you find somebody to hug, for example, and I recommend this to everybody. You don't have somebody and that is even better than dopamine.
Yeah, it releases oxytocin. Yeah, so these are chemicals in your brain. It changes your. Huh? They grow neural pathways. Yeah, yep. Yeah, they've been able to see this even with following with PET scans and seeing. Writing a gratitude letter is another thing that has got a high degree of science associated with it. And
Hopefully next year, the year after, are going to be talking this too. Because they're all going to learn about this.
yeah, you are.
Such things.
If I got my way, we're going to do it.
Think about the mirror
Mirror neurons, yeah.
contagious, and you see one person laughing, and you mimic it.
Yeah.
You mimic that behavior. So, like Pat and Mary said, there's a lot of neurophysiology behind when we talk about the evidence.
The evidence is really remarkable, and it's really interesting in terms of how it's sort of exploding in the last couple of years too. Social support. Friend is not just a verb on Facebook. We are not, when you think about the importance of social support, having a best friend at work is got one of those things, having somebody to process things with, laugh with, using humor. I think we all talked about that today, other speakers, and it's just really important. And then, of course, your breath is your own best friend. And then you got to think about the exponential effect of a mindfulness meditation practice, which might involve sitting, it might involve being calm, but you could do a walking meditation too. It's really noticing things, and we'll be thinking about that even more in the future in psychiatry, because we're our most important resource. And where am I? My notes. Sorry. I get excited about this stuff. So when you think about positive emotions being contagious, and I do want to put a plug in here. Marty Seligman I quoted, is that focus on what's going well. We have our Grand Round speaker for the physicians on Monday in Hurd Hall, Barbara Fredrickson, who is the guru of positive psychology, is going to be here at Hopkins. So if anybody can slip away from their unit or even come in on their day off, it'll be really interesting to meet with her. And Dr. Rushton and I are going to meet with her in the morning and talk to her about some of our programs that we're doing here at Hopkins, just to bask in the glow of her positive aura. I'm very excited about that. So the 3 good things exercise, you've probably heard about that. Some people do it with their children at dinner table. And that's one of those, some people call it the 3 blessings exercise. It's some of the work that's been done with gratitude, but to actually sit and reflect on that. And it does make a difference to write it down. At least that's what the research has shown. Right? I mean, you can reflect on that as you're leaving work, and probably shouldn't write it while you're driving, but but if you can write it, it helps to sort of imprint it into your brain. And again, as I mentioned before, it has a lasting effect. Even if you do it for a week or a couple of weeks, it does last. One of the things that Emmons, who's one of the earlier researchers in gratitude work, has said is that it's just important to keep it simple. Don't overly complicate it too much. Some of the things that some of the members of the MEPRA Community of Practice group are doing, they're doing gratitude rounds in their unit. They have, during huddles, they make it a practice to think about something that they're grateful for. It's important not to force it, but it's a wonderful sort of habit that can help. And again, some of the other research is showing that the lack of social connection is a riskier behavior than obesity and smoking. So think about that. So it might be worth it to join something if you're really isolated. Just think about the importance of keeping that social connection. Anything that anybody's doing on their units that they want to share in terms of positive psychology, or you'd like to do? Perlita, do you have anything? No? How about our Thanksgiving dinner?